The twin suns were setting over the alien planet Zelvaris, painting the sky in orange and purple. Jake Hunter, a lone human explorer from Earth, was walking through the dense alien forest. His suit was dusty, his boots covered in mud, and his energy scanner kept blinking red low power. He was lost. His spaceship had crash-landed 2 days ago. He had survived, but the navigation system was broken. All he could do now was walk and hope to find help or shelter. As he pushed through thick vines glowing with strange blue light, he spotted something that made him stop. A giant stone gate stood in front of him. It was covered in alien symbols and shining crystals. Vines wrapped around it, but something about the gate felt alive. Jake blinked. What the hell is this? His scanner went crazy. Energy spikes off the charts. This wasn't just some old building, it was something important. He stepped closer, brushing away some vines. In the center of the door, there was a hand-shaped imprint glowing faintly. Without thinking, he placed his hand in the imprint. Click. The door rumbled. Stones shifted. A deep hum echoed through the forest as the door slowly opened, revealing a grand hall inside golden walls, floating lights, and a long path that led to a giant glowing crystal at the center. Jake stepped in, amazed. He had seen alien ruins before, but nothing like this. It was like a temple. No, a throne room. And then everything changed. As soon as Jake reached the middle of the room, the glowing crystal lit up. Lines of light spread across the floor, reaching the walls. Strange runes appeared on the pillars. The ceiling itself shimmered. And a soft chime rang like a bell. Then came the sound of footsteps. From both sides of the temple, guards in dark armor rushed in. They had smooth silver skin and sharp eyes. Alien warriors, tall, proud, and angry. One of them shouted, "Stop! Right there, outsider?" Jake raised his hands. "Whoa, easy." "I didn't mean to." He was grabbed, forced to the floor. One guard stared at his hand, the one that touched the imprint. The glowing mark was still there, burning gently on his skin like a tattoo. "No," the guard said in a low voice. "It can't be." Then from behind the guards, a tall alien woman stepped in. She wore royal robes and her crown glowed with the same crystal light. Her face was sharp, proud, and beautiful, but her eyes were cold. She was High Priestess Malvera. "This temple is sacred," she said calmly. "Only royalty may enter." Jake gulped. "I didn't know. I was just looking for shelter." The priestess's eyes narrowed. "You touched the gate of bonding. The temple has marked you." "I didn't mean to." Jake tried to explain. "It just lit up." The crowd of guards murmured among themselves. Whispers echoed the prophecy. Could it be true? Malvera raised her hand. Silence. She walked slowly toward Jake, then looked at the glowing mark on his palm. Her expression turned serious, no longer angry, but disturbed. "This has not happened in 1,000 years, she whispered. Jake frowned. "What's going on?" She turned to the guards. "Bring him to the palace. The princes must see this. If the temple chose him, we cannot ignore it." Jake was pulled to his feet. "Princes? Chose me for what?" But no one answered him. As they marched him through the jungle toward the shining city of glass towers in the distance, Jake had a sinking feeling. This wasn't just a shelter. This was the beginning of something much bigger. At the palace gates, alien citizens gathered. They stared at the human, shocked, confused. Children pointed. Elders whispered. The guards pushed people aside and led Jake up the marble steps. Inside, in a tall golden throne room, a young alien woman stood by a window. She had long white hair that glowed faintly under the moons, and silver armor shaped to fit her royal form. Her sharp ears twitched as the doors opened. She turned, confused, then her eyes locked onto Jake. The priestess stepped forward and knelt. "Princess Kalira, the temple has marked this human." Kalira raised an eyebrow. "A human?" "Impossible." Jake raised his hand, showing the glowing mark. "Yeah, I thought so too." Everyone in the room gasped. Kalir stepped forward slowly, eyes locked on the mark. A strange look crossed her face, shock, fear, and something else. "Take him to the chamber," she said coldly. "We'll test the bond," Jake blinked. "The what now?" But again, no one answered as the doors closed behind him, and the crowd whispered outside. One thing was clear: Jake Hunter had broken the sacred rule, and now he was part of a prophecy that could change the galaxy. The glowing mark on Jake's palm refused to fade. Even hours later, as he sat inside the cold stone cell, it pulsed softly like it had a heartbeat of its own. He had no idea what it meant or why an ancient alien temple had reacted to him of all people. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. A group of alien guards appeared at the cell door. They were silent, armed, and serious. The leader, taller than the rest, unlocked the door and barked, "Stand, you will face the princes now." Jake stood slowly. "Okay, no pressure." The guards marched him out through long marble halls lit by soft golden lights. Alien designs were carved into the wall, scenes of old battles, kings and queens, and a strange glowing symbol that looked a lot like the one on his hand. The doors ahead opened. Jake entered a wide ceremonial chamber. Dozens of alien nobles watched from above, whispering among themselves. All attention focused on the royal throne. Princess Kalira stood there, tall, glowing, and beautiful. Her silver armor sparkled under the chandelier light. She wasn't wearing a crown, but the way she looked at Jake made him feel like an insect. "Under a microscope? This is the human?" she asked without emotion. "Yes, Your Highness," said High Priestess Malvera, stepping beside her. The ancient mark of bonding appeared the moment he touched the gate. Jake lifted his hand. "Yeah, about that, do you guys have, an instruction manual for this?" No one laughed. The princes slowly walked toward him. Each step echoed in the hall like thunder. Jake didn't move. He met her eyes, trying to hide the fact that he was nervous. Terrified, really. Kalira stopped in front of him and looked down at his hand. Then she did something strange. She reached out and touched the mark with her fingers. The chamber lights flickered. Everyone gasped. A pulse of light shot through the room. For a split second, Kalira's own hand glowed. The same symbol appeared. Faintly on her skin, she jerked her hand back. "No!" she whispered. "It's true." "What's true?" Jake asked, still lost. Malvera stepped forward. "The Temple of Bonding is only awakened when two souls destined by fate come into contact, a chosen pair meant to unite two worlds." "Wait, what?" Jake blinked. "You think I'm what? Her soulmate?" Kalira's eyes narrowed. "That cannot be. He is a human." "The temple chose him," Malvera said. "We cannot deny the sign." Jake laughed nervously. "Okay, look, I really didn't mean to sign up for Alien Tinder." Kalira's sharp voice cut through the laughter. "You will face the trial of worth." "What kind of trial?" Jake asked, already regretting it. The princess walked back to her throne. "The kind where if you fail, you die?" They didn't. Give him time to prepare. Within the hour, Jake was taken to the sacred trial ground, a circular arena carved deep into a mountainside. Spectators filled the edges. Alien nobles, warriors, even scholars, all watching. He stood in the middle, looking around, confused. "So, who do I fight?" The stone gates across the arena groaned open. Out came a creature. 8 feet tall, 4 arms, skin like black armor. Its mouth hissed with dripping fangs. "Seriously?" Jake shouted. "No tutorial? No sword? Not even a stick?" The beast roared. Jake ran, dodging left and right. He looked for anything that could help him survive. His human mind kicked in fast. The arena floor had symbols carved into it. When the beast stepped on one, it sparked. "Pressure runes," Jake muttered. "Energy reaction. Maybe I can use that." The next minute was chaos. Jake baited the beast into stepping on a glowing tile. The rune exploded upward with force, blasting the creature into a wall. The crowd gasped. Jake stood, panting, arms raised somehow. He had one dot from the royal viewing stand. Kalira stared down at him, her face unreadable. But her voice was clear as crystal. "The trial has been completed." Malvera turned to her. "The law is clear." The princess gritted her teeth. "Then speak it." Malvera stepped forward. "The victor of the trial of bonding must take the royal bride as mate." The crowd cheered. Jake blinked. "Wait, what?" Kalira's eyes widened. "You're taking me as your wife? Really?" Jake shrugged. I didn't know that was part of the prize. The sun was setting behind the crystal towers of the alien capital, casting a golden glow across the sky. But Jake didn't have time to enjoy the view. He stood in a room filled with silence, shock, and too many alien eyes watching him like he was some strange animal. Princess Kalira's voice still echoed in his ears. "You're taking me as your wife? Really?" Jake had wanted to laugh, but her expression made it clear this was no joke. He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Look, I'm not even from this planet. I didn't come here looking for a wife, royal or not." Kalira crossed her arms. "Then perhaps you should not have stepped into the Temple of Bonding or defeated the trial beast." "I didn't know what the rules were," he argued. "Back home, when you touch something glowing, usually it just opens a door or plays music." But the High Priestess Malvera interrupted. "The law has spoken. The bond has been accepted. Unless the princess breaks it publicly, she must honor the trial." Kalira's eyes narrowed. "I do not accept him." "Not yet." The hall went silent. That's when Malvera added with a cold smile. "Then he must survive one more trial. A final test to prove he is worthy to remain beside you, not just by fate, but by strength." Kalira hesitated, then nodded. Jake blinked. "Wait, again?" Later that night, Jake stood in a new arena. This one was darker, underground, with torchlight flickering against the wet walls. No crowds. No cheers. Only the princess, her guards, and one strange cloaked figure holding a long curved staff. Kalira spoke from above. "This is no beast. This is a thinking opponent, a warrior. Defeat her, and I will no longer challenge the bond." Jake raised his hands. "Listen, can't we just talk this out over space tea or something?" The cloaked figure stepped forward, pulling back her hood, a female warrior, older, scars on her face, her eyes sharp like a hawk. She held her staff with deadly grace. Jake gulped. "Of course it's a grandma assassin." The gong sounded. She attacked fast. Jake barely dodged the first strike. The second sweep knocked him to the floor. The third almost cracked his ribs. He wasn't trained for this. He was just a pilot, not a gladiator. But then something clicked in his mind. She's testing me, not trying to kill me. Yet he stopped, trying to fight back with fists, and started using his brain. He kicked sand in her face, rolled under a table, grabbed a broken chain off the wall and used it to block her staff. For every move she made with strength, he countered with creativity. Eventually, she smiled. And stepped back. The warrior bowed to Kalira. "He is clever. He knows how to lose battles to win the war." Jake stood, breathing hard. "So, do I pass or do I get turned into alien stew now?" Kalira stared at him for a long moment. Then finally she spoke. "You are not what I expected from a mate." He smiled weakly. "I get that a lot." Malvera stepped forward. "The bond remains. The final trial is complete." Kalira sighed. "Very well. The laws of my people say you are my fated mate." Jake raised an eyebrow. "So, what now? Do we exchange rings or space swords or something?" Kalira stepped down from her throne and stood in front of him. "Now," she said coldly, "you move into the royal wing. You eat what I eat. Walk where I walk. Sleep under the same roof. And if you truly are my bonded one," she leaned close, her voice like silk, "you'll survive living with me." The palace was beautiful, but it felt like a trap. Jake stood at the center of his new royal chamber, his boots still muddy and his brain spinning. The walls shimmered with soft golden light. The ceiling had floating crystals that shifted colors with his mood. Every time he sighed, the room dimmed. When he was startled, it brightened. Even the air smelled like honey and spice. "Is it alive?" he whispered, poking the wall. Behind him, a soft voice answered coldly. "The room responds to its bonded occupant. Try not to panic. It's sensitive." Jake turned to see her Princess Kalira. Her silver robes flowed behind her like water, and her long white hair was now tied in a formal braid. She stood tall, proud, emotionless. "You followed our rituals. You passed the trials. Now you live here." "With me," she said. Jake scratched his head. "Yeah, about that. I still don't know how we got from "I need shelter" to "Here's your alien bride." Kalira's eyes narrowed. I never wanted this, but the people believe in fate, and your glowing hand has made things ... complicated. He tried to smile. Well, I'm very good at complicating things. She didn't smile back. The following days were chaos. Jake was forced to dress in royal ceremonial armor, lightweight, shiny, and deeply uncomfortable. He joined Kalira at public events, walking 2 steps behind her. Alien nobles watched them, with judgmental eyes, whispering every time he spoke. At breakfast, he was served glowing fruit that sang when sliced. At dinner, a 6-legged lizard stared at him until he ate it. At night, he returned to his royal suite only to find that Kalira's chamber was connected to his. She made it clear. You may sleep, but do not cross the divider. This is not a real marriage. Understood, Jake replied, laying awkwardly on a bed that felt like it breathed under him. But not everyone in the palace was calm. Many nobles were furious. A human sharing space with the heir of the throne? Unthinkable. Rumors spread. Assassins were whispered about. Poisoned meals. Accidents during public appearances. Jake didn't notice at first, but Kalira did, one evening after a meeting. With the council, she walked beside him in silence. Then she suddenly spoke. You are in danger. Jake blinked. Thanks for the update. I've been here 4 days, and I've already fought a beast, a warrior monk, and been married without consent. This is different, she said. They won't attack you in the open, but you will feel it bit by bit. Your cup, your food, your path through the garden, they will test how close I let you live. Jake stared at her. And how close? Do you let me live? She paused. Then answered softly, I haven't decided yet. That night, everything changed. Jake woke up to the soft sound of footsteps. He sat up just in time to see a shadow moving across the chamber. A blade gleamed in the moonlight. The assassin rushed forward, but before Jake could shout, a bright pulse knocked the intruder back. The glowing wall between his chamber and Kalira's lit up. She had triggered the protection seal. Kalira burst in seconds later, holding a long staff. The assassin tried to escape, but she moved faster than lightning, hitting the figure in the chest and slamming them to the floor. Blood splashed. The room went silent. Jake stared at her, eyes wide, chest pounding. Kalira stood over the fallen attacker, chest rising and falling. Her white hair was messy, her hands stained with blood. She looked at Jake, not with anger, but something else. Next time, she whispered, lock your chamber door. Jake swallowed. You saved me. She turned away. Only because the people believe your death would curse the throne. But Jake saw the shake in her hand, the quick breath she hid, the fear she didn't show. He sat beside her quietly. I don't want to be your weakness, he said. She stared at the glowing symbol on his hand. And for the first time, she didn't look cold, just ... confused. I don't know what you are, she whispered. But you're no ordinary human. Jake never thought silence could feel so loud. Since the assassination attempt, Kalira had ordered more guards near his room, doubled his food testers, and even gave him a personal shield badge. But she hadn't said a word to him in 3 days. She was avoiding him. Jake paced around the royal garden, staring at strange purple trees with petals that hummed in the breeze. Alien birds hovered mid-air without flapping their wings. The beauty of it all didn't calm him. It only reminded him how far from Earth he was. And how alone. He sighed and looked up at the palace tower. That's where she was, Princess Kalira, his wife. Kind of inside her chamber, Kalira sat by a glowing scroll, pretending to read. But her eyes kept flicking to the sealed door between their rooms. That man. That strange, clumsy, stubborn human. He was not supposed to survive the trial. Beast. He was not supposed to outsmart the old warrior. And he was definitely not supposed to make her feel anything. She frowned. Why had she killed for him? Why did she check the cameras in his room when he didn't show up for breakfast? Why did his voice, so different from the deep, formal tones of her people, echo in her mind like a whisper she couldn't ignore? No, this bond is a mistake, she told herself, a beautiful, confusing mistake. The next morning, Jake's routine changed. Instead of guards bringing him food, Kalira herself entered with a small tray. She placed it on his table without speaking. Jake blinked. Is this poisoned or an apology? She didn't answer, just stared at him. Okay, I'll take my chances, he muttered, poking the jelly-like cube with a spoon. You shouldn't joke, Kalira said quietly. He stopped. That single quotes S. The first thing you've said to me in days? She sat across from him. Her silver armor was gone. She wore a soft flowing dress, something less royal, more real. Her hair was loose for the first time. Jake barely recognized her. You? Confuse me, she said honestly. Double quotes. Well, I confuse myself most days. She didn't smile, but her voice lost its edge. I studied Earth. Your people are supposed to be fragile, illogical, weak, but you keep surviving things no one should, and you laugh. Even when you're afraid. Jake leaned forward. You think I'm not scared here? Every day I feel like I'm walking on a line between being your husband and being executed. You are not my husband, she replied quickly. Jake raised an eyebrow. Right, of course. Just the man you tried to test, marry, and protect all in 1 week. Silence. Then she laughed. It was small. Barely a sound, but it was real. And Jake froze. Did you just... No, she said quickly, standing up. That was... a breath malfunction, Jake chuckled. Sure it was. Later that night she invited him to the Royal Observatory. The stars above Zelvaris looked different from Earth's sky. There were 2 moons and strange green rings around the planet. Jake sat beside her, wrapped in a heat cloak made of living threads. I used to come here as a child, Kalira said softly, before I had to wear crowns. Before the palace became a prison. Jake looked at her. I know that feeling, he said. On Earth I was always moving, always flying. The sky was my freedom. She turned toward him. We are different, Jake Hunter. But when I look at the stars with you, I wonder if we're not so far apart after all. He didn't know what to say, so he didn't speak. He just stayed beside her. And this time she didn't move away. The next morning, the palace staff was shocked to find the princess and the human walking side by side. No guards. No crown, just 2 people. Talking. Laughing even. The whispers began again. But they were different now, not scandal. Hope. Asterisk. The palace had changed. Where once there were whispers of disgust, now there were curious glances. The alien nobles still called Jake the outsider, but they spoke it softer now. Less hate. More hesitation. Jake walked through the garden beside Kalira. She no longer kept her distance. She no longer called him human. She called him Jake, and he liked the sound of his name in her voice, but deep inside the royal palace, someone watched them through the vines. Someone who did not believe in bonds. Someone who did not want change. Someone who believed a human at the princess's side was an insult to their bloodline. That evening, the royal court gathered for the bonding feast, an old tradition held when the sacred mark glowed on 2 souls. Jake sat beside Kalira, wearing ceremonial robes stitched with glowing threads. Kalira wore a silver dress that shimmered like moonlight on water. She looked like a queen. But tonight she smiled like a woman. They ate strange, glowing dishes, drank sweet fruit wine, and laughed at odd alien customs. One game involved guessing the meaning of ancient symbols. Jake guessed wildly and somehow won. Even Kalira laughed, but someone else was watching from the shadows. The cupbearer, a loyal servant, or so everyone thought. He poured Jake's next drink with steady hands, and a single drop of a clear liquid moments later. Jake raised the cup. He smiled at Kalira, lifted the glass, and took a sip, and that's when it began. His fingers trembled, his vision blurred. His legs gave out, he collapsed to the floor. The room froze. Kalira stood immediately. Jake? He tried to speak, but no words came. His throat closed. His skin turned pale. The glowing mark on his hand began to dim. No, stay with me. Kalira shouted, kneeling beside him. Guards rushed in. Healers ran forward. The crowd panicked. But all Kalira could hear was the slowing beat of his pulse, and the fear screaming inside her. She held him in her arms. He was cold. Too cold. The healer pulled her aside. He has been poisoned, a rare venom. It drains the Life bond between soulmates. Then give him the cure, she snapped. The healer lowered his head. We need to know which venom it was. There are hundreds. Kalira's eyes flared. Then we find who did it. She turned to the guards. Lock the doors, no one leaves. She knelt beside Jake again. His breathing was weak. The mark on his hand barely glowed now. He was fading, and something inside her cracked out. She took his hand and whispered, You stupid, brave man. Why did you make me care? Tears touched her eyes. I hated you, she whispered. I swore I'd never accept this bond, but now I can't imagine a day without hearing your voice. Jake didn't respond. Please, she whispered. Don't leave before I say it. Don't leave before I tell you what I feel. She placed her forehead against his and said, For the first time, I love you, Jake Hunter. But would he live long enough to hear it? The glow on his hand faded to nothing. Kalira closed her eyes. Then suddenly, just as hope was slipping, the mark flickered. A soft light pulsed beneath his skin. Kalira gasped. He's still fighting. She stood tall. Her voice roared through the chamber. Seal the palace. No one escapes. Tonight I find the traitor who touched my bonded one and they will beg for mercy. The palace was locked. No one entered. No one left. The warmth of celebration had turned to ice. Soldiers marched in every hallway. Servants were questioned. Advisors were searched. The royal court had never seen Princess Kalira like this, cold, sharp, and ready for war. Her voice echoed through the stone corridors. I will burn this palace to the ground before I let him die. In the center of her chamber, Jake lay on a glowing bed made of living crystal. His face was pale, lips dry, heartbeat weak. The sacred mark on his hand glowed dimly like a dying star. Kalira never left his side. Not for a moment. She held his hand every hour, whispering stories, speaking earth words she had learned from him. She even tried joking, though her voice cracked with each laugh. I never thought I'd care about a human, she whispered one night. But now I can't breathe without you. And then came a whisper from the shadows. A name. A servant girl entered quietly, her eyes wide, her hands shaking. Your Highness. I saw the cupbearer trade flasks with Lord Varix before the feast. Kalira froze, her jaw tightened. Her heart dropped. Lord Varix, one of her mother's oldest allies, a man who hated humans, a man who always smiled too easily when speaking. Of pure bloodlines, she stood slowly. Bring him, she said. Alive. That night, Lord Varix was dragged into the throne room. His robe was torn. His mask of calm was gone. Kalira stood before him like a storm. You poisoned him, she said. You tried to kill the one chosen by the temple. Varix spat on the floor. He is not one of us. You are royalty. You were meant to rule, not mate with something that bleeds weak. Kalira's voice was steady. He fought for my people. He bled in our trials, and he made me feel more than any prince ever has. He is a mistake. Varix roared. Kalira stepped closer. Her eyes glowed. No, he is my choice. She raised her hand. Guards, take him. He will live in chains for the rest of his days. And every time he sleeps, he will remember the human who took his place beside me. But Jake was still slipping away. The royal healers knelt beside him. We found the exact venom. We can prepare the cure. But it must be mixed with the blood of the bonded one. Kalira didn't hesitate. She pulled a ceremonial dagger from her side, sliced her palm without blinking, and held it over the glowing vial. Take it all if you must. They mixed the cure, poured it gently into Jake's mouth, and waited. The room was silent. Kalira closed her eyes. Then Jake coughed. His chest rose sharply. He gasped for air. His eyes fluttered open. Kalira dropped to her knees. He blinked at her, dazed. Did we win ... something? She laughed. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You idiot. He smiled weakly. I missed your insults. The next day, the palace gates opened again. The people of Zelvarus gathered in the city square, expecting news of shame or death, but instead, Kalira walked out, holding Jake's hand. Side by side. Equal steps. No more distance between them. The sacred mark on their hands glowed, bright for all to see. Kalira raised her voice. I was born a princess by blood. But today I stand by the one I chose, not by tradition, not by force, but by heart. She looked at Jake. He may be human, but he is mine, and I am his. The crowd went silent, then erupted in thunderous cheers. That night, under the twin moons, Kalira stood on the royal balcony beside Jake, the stars reflected in her eyes. She turned to him and whispered, "I never believed in fate," Jake smiled. "Good, because I'm stubborn enough to believe in us instead." She kissed him softly, fully, finally, and for the first time in Zelvra's history, an alien princess and a human outsider became more than a legend. They became a love story.